I didn't expect her to remember my name. Definitely not the way she said it, like it was still hanging in the air from years ago. The first time I saw her again, it was a Tuesday afternoon at the corner coffee place. I'd been going there for months without thinking much about it. Same chipped mug, same spot near the window, same half-finished texts to no one in particular. And then she walked in, older now, but not in a bad way. More solid, certain, the kind of presence that changes the air without trying. She spotted me before I could pretend not to notice. "You grew up fast," she said, smiling like she knew exactly what she was doing. I didn't know whether to laugh or look away. Instead, I said, "Want me to prove it?" It came out quicker than I meant. Too casual. But her eyebrow lifted, just slightly, before she ordered her drink. While she waited, she stood close enough for me to see the faint line of a scar near her wrist. I remembered she used to wear bracelets that jingled when she walked. No sound today, just the quiet click of her nails against the counter. "Still take your coffee black?" she asked. I nodded. "And you still remember useless things?" I said. She shrugged, but didn't deny it. I kept my eyes on the steam curling out of her cup, even though I wanted to watch her. There's something about knowing you shouldn't that makes it harder to stop. She had the same habit she used to, running her thumb along the lid, like testing for heat. We talked, but not about much. Where I'd been, where she was working now, a shared joke about my sister still being terrible at texting back. It felt too easy, like no time had passed, but everything had. When she laughed, she tilted her head just enough to meet my eyes. I held it for half a second longer than I should have. She noticed. I left before she did. Didn't want to risk overstaying the moment. Walking home, I caught myself replaying it. The way her voice softened when she asked about my job, the faint citrus scent when she leaned closer. I told myself it was nothing, just a conversation. That night, I sat at my desk, staring at a blank message. Just her name in the to field. My fingers hovered over the keys, then stopped. Deleted. An hour later, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. "Still drink it black, huh?" I stared at the screen longer than I should have. Then, another one. Next time, my treat. We met again a week later. Not planned. At least, not by me. She was at the checkout counter of the bookstore, tapping her card against the reader like it owed her money. I almost kept walking. But she spotted me. That same half-smile again. "You read now?" she teased, eyeing the book in my hand. "Trying to," I said. She glanced at the cover. "Heavy stuff. Guess I grew up," I muttered. We ended up sitting at a tiny table near the back. She ordered tea this time, sliding it toward her before wrapping both hands around the cup. I noticed her nails were shorter now, unpolished. We talked about nothing important. Or maybe it was. She told me she hated Sundays. Too quiet, too much thinking. I told her I hated waking up before sunrise, even for good reasons. Somewhere between her sipping her tea and me pretending not to watch, I asked, "Still living in the old place?" She shook her head. "Moved after the divorce." Said it like she was commenting on the weather. No hesitation, no explanation. But her gaze went to the floor for a beat too long. I didn't ask anything else. Just nodded. And I think she noticed that I noticed. Her phone buzzed once, twice, face down on the table. She didn't check it. Just stirred her tea, even though she hadn't added sugar. At one point, she reached for my book. "Let me see." Her hand brushed mine. Light, almost by accident. Almost. It wasn't much. Just skin against skin. But it felt like someone had paused the whole cafe. I don't know why that moment stayed with me. Maybe because it felt like someone finally saw me. When we stood to leave, she held the book out. "Don't skip the ending," she said. I walked home with her touch still there, like it was refusing to fade. The next time, it was her who waved me over. Corner table, same cafe, late afternoon light cutting across her face. We didn't even start talking right away. Just sat there. Her tea steaming between us, my coffee already going cold. "You've been quiet lately," she said. "Busy," I lied. She looked like she wanted to say something else, but the bell over the door rang. It was Mark, an old friend from school. He froze for half a second when he saw us. "Hey," he said, dragging out the word. "Hey," I replied, trying not to notice how his eyes flicked between us before he ordered and sat across the room. After that, she didn't meet my gaze as much. Kept tracing the rim of her cup with one finger. I could feel the air shift, like we'd stepped too close to something we weren't ready to name. She asked if I'd read more of that book. I nodded, almost at the part you warned me about. Good, she said, but her voice was softer. Not the same playful edge. For a second, I thought about telling her that I hadn't been quiet because I was busy, that I'd been avoiding the cafe, wondering if she actually wanted me there. Instead, I just asked, "You okay?" Her smile was small. "Yeah, just," she stopped. Eyes on the window. Her hand moved on the table, like she almost reached for mine. Then she pulled it back, fingers curling into her palm. We sat there in the hum of the espresso machine, in the clink of cups and low chatter, too aware of how close our knees were under the table. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. She did the same. If Mark hadn't stood up just then, walking past us toward the door, maybe. I don't know. It was just a walk. End of the day, air still holding the heat. We ended up at the park without talking about it. She sat on the bench first, and I followed, leaving just enough space to pretend it meant nothing. "You haven't been around much," she said, eyes fixed on the path ahead. "Thought maybe you didn't want me to be." That made her look at me. Really look. "Why would you think that?" I shrugged. You pulled back. Her hands were in her lap, fingers knotted together. "Because people notice things. They make guesses. And maybe they're not wrong." I felt something push against my ribs, sharp and insistent. "So, let them guess." She gave a half smile, like she wanted to believe me but couldn't. "It's not that simple." The silence between us got heavy. I wanted to ask who she was worried about, but I already knew. "You know Mark?" I said. She nodded. "He asked about you. About us." Her breath caught, barely audible. "And what did you say?" "That there isn't an US." I waited. "Yet." The word hung there. She looked down at her hands, then up at me. Something in her expression cracked. "You shouldn't." She stopped herself, swallowed. "You shouldn't look at me like that." "Why not?" She held my gaze for a long moment, then said quietly, "Because I might not be able to look away." Neither of us moved. The air felt charged, like we were standing on the edge of something that could never be undone. And then she asked, soft, almost to herself, what would happen if we stopped pretending? The next week, she wasn't there. No bench. No coffee shop. No accidental crossings in the produce aisle. When I finally saw her, it was from across the street. She was talking to someone, older guy, easy smile, hand resting on her arm like he'd always had the right. I didn't cross over, just kept walking, slow enough to catch her glance my way. She hesitated, but didn't call out. 2 days later, I passed her driveway. Her car was there, lights off. I almost went up, but stopped. That night, I typed, "Did I do something?" Stared at it for a long time. Deleted it. It wasn't until Mark mentioned it in passing. "Her kid's back from college, right? Guess she's busy." That something shifted in my chest. "Kid." She never said. The silence between us stretched. I told myself I'd wait. Give her space. But days became weeks. I didn't feel heartbroken. I felt paused. Like life forgot to finish the sentence. And so I walked past her street again. Past her door. Past the light in her kitchen. The chair by the window was empty. I didn't plan to stop. I was just walking by and saw her at the kitchen sink, hair tied back, sleeves pushed up. She noticed me through the window. For a second, I thought she might look away. Instead, she opened the door. "Been busy," she said. "I know." Silence filled the space between us, heavy and warm at the same time. I wasn't sure if her voice trailed off. "Me either." She glanced at my hands. I shoved them in my pockets, like that would steady me. "I didn't want to make things complicated," she said. "They already are," I said, before I could stop myself. Her eyes held mine a moment too long. Not asking, not promising, just there. I took a step closer. Not enough to change anything. Just enough so she'd feel it. She smiled, small and tired, but it stayed. "Okay," she whispered. "It's different now. Not all at once. More like mornings slowly getting lighter. We still meet at the bench sometimes, the one by the bakery. She still drinks tea. I still take my coffee black. It's not about proving anything anymore." At 8:47 a.m., I'm already there, watching her cross the street. She pretends not to notice, but she always slows when she gets close. We don't talk about the months we lost. We talk about the cat that keeps sleeping on her porch, the neighbor's terrible wind chimes, the new bread they started baking on Tuesdays. Some days she leans on my shoulder. Some days I lean on hers. Life isn't perfect. It's just better. And every now and then, she'll look at me with that quiet half smile. The one that says without words, "We remember."